Mark Rogers TV, always talking college football. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel for the very best in analysis right here with myself, but also the best bloggers, broadcasters, and writers in the industry, including Shannon Summers, who is the director of the Ozone Radio Network. You can also catch him on Across the Field and also the Silver Bullets podcast. Shannon, Tony Gerdeman, the rest of the guys doing a great job there at the Ozone. Shannon, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me back on, Mark.
Yeah, we have a ton of spring games for the next 2 weekends, and Ohio State gets on the field on April 14th at the Shoe. It'll be one of the bigger crowds, if not the biggest in all of college football. And everyone's going to look at quarterback. And so we've got, of course, JT Barrett, his name etched in the record books, moves on. So Tate Martell, Joe Burrow, most people are giving the job to Dwayne Haskins based on 7 throws against Michigan, 7 very important throws and some very crucial moments, of course, down by a score there in the third quarter. The throw to Austin Mack on the 3rd and 18 was the best throw maybe of the season. But how do you shape this thing up? And do you think it's a open and shut case, or do you think there's some wiggle room for to evaluate everyone?
Well, according to Urban Meyer in his press conferences and stuff, he's been saying that it's an equal footing between the 3. Now, hearing stuff from some of the players, I guess like Mike Weber today was mentioning how they're not going to be having a scrambling quarterback coming into this next season. One of the many reasons he was coming back for his, this season. His goal is to have like 1,300 rushing yards and X amount of catches and stuff like that, and 15 touchdowns, I think. So one of the biggest things was that they wanted to have more carries between him and JK. JT had more carries than what the other, what they had last year. So they're looking forward to either Haskins or Burrow being the starter to not run as much as they have in years past. Burrow can run. He's a better runner than Haskins is. Haskins, what he did against Michigan can't be discounted. And I've also told people the game against Illinois have to keep that in perspective, because he coughed up the fumble. I mean, it was a helmet on the ball, but still offense got, they got pulled out and the first team got put back in. But at the same time, Burrow was likely the backup before he got injured, which thrust Haskins into it. Haskins did a great job. So it's still neck and neck from what I'm understanding between Haskins and Burrow. So it's going to be fun to watch. We're not really going to learn much as far as fans from the spring game, as far as what's going on behind closed doors with the leadership and everything like that, the little things that they're looking for from these 2 guys to take control.
Shannon, do you think maybe too much is made of Joe Burrow transferring if he's not the starter? And if this quarterback competition stays through till August, obviously, then he's in the running and won't be able to make that decision anyway for the 2018 season. That's passed him by. But beyond that, if Haskins wins the job, then obviously Burrow is going to be in a place where, unless Haskins falters or gets injured, then it's the difficulty of having the recruiting status that Ohio State does, that you can't keep everybody happy because you brought in 4 and 5-star quarterbacks, but only one can take the snaps.
Right. And Burrow is the one that he opened the door for the whole situation to talk about the transferring and everything. The Big Ten Conference championship game afterwards, I believe it was, and maybe the bowl game, talking about, I'm going to sit down with Urban Meyer, and I'm going to sit down with the quarterback coach, Ryan Day, and we're going to sit down and discuss what I need to do. I'm going to give it everything that I have this spring in order to become that man, because I want to be the starter here at Ohio State. And if I'm not, then there's a possibility that I'm going to want to transfer somewhere to be a starting quarterback. And he's looking at his future, wanting to go into the NFL, I'm sure, and he wants to be a starter somewhere, which is understandable. Now, does that mean that coming out of the spring is still neck and neck? And Urban sits down with them both and says, look, both of you guys are my guys right now. I can't make a determination. What you guys do during the summer is going to determine who becomes the starter come fall camp. It's going to be interesting to see what choice he makes. I know a lot of people are saying, hey, he could be going to Nebraska, but I honestly think if he doesn't win a starting job in spring and they decide to go ahead and go with Haskins and he decides to transfer, I honestly believe that they might put, all right, you can't transfer to Nebraska because we have to play them this year. So I think everybody needs to maybe calm down on these Nebraska rumors if he does happen to transfer. But I coined myself as being the commissioner of the Joe Burrow starting quarterback for the 2018 season. I believe he's going to be the starter. I'm probably going to be wrong, but I do believe he's going to end up becoming a starter.
So, Shannon, you believe he's going to be the starter or believe he should be the starter? And if it should, then why Joe Burrow?
As far as believing that he will be, I don't think there should be a should, because it's really between the two. You just don't know if what you're going to get week to week, what kind of consistency you're going to get from them. So I don't know as far as he should start over Haskins. I feel that he's just has a little bit more seasoning, being in this offense a little bit longer, maybe knows a little bit more, reading defenses and such, that he might have that upper hand. Just that coming out of training camp, going to be named as the backup, and you break your hand, that kind of set him back. But it's, like I said, it's the little things that are going on behind the scenes as far as what they say they want from the players with their leadership. And, there's 5 things that they want from a quarterback. And if you ever seen that video that Ohio State put out for Happy Joe Day, and he's fighting one of the linebackers for that tire, you could tell this kid is giving everything he has and putting it all on the line. He's not playing like somebody that's got one foot out the door.
And if you listen to Urban Meyer and believe him about assessing a quarterback, he puts more value in that than he does even being able to throw the ball through, a tire, through a window, being able to do the things that woo and wow the rest of us in assessing a quarterback. Sure, the kids have got to be able to throw the football, but at this point, we know that they all can throw with some velocity and throw it well enough to a certain degree to compete for the job. But Urban Meyer looks at leadership, toughness, competitiveness, and he's looking for that type of leadership at that position and values it greatly. All right, we're talking Ohio State football here at Mark Rogers TV, and ask that you subscribe to my YouTube channel if you love college football. If you don't, then don't watch. But otherwise, you got to subscribe to my YouTube channel, because I bring in guys like Shannon Summers, who you can catch as the director of the Ozone Radio Network. Also, a number of podcasts there with the Silver Bullets podcast and Across the Field, something that he produces and co-hosts with Tony Gerdeman as well. So the offensive line, Billy Price, talk about a guy that usually we don't give many accolades to offensive linemen, but Urban Meyer has him as a Buckeye great of all time, and rightfully so. He moves on. The offensive line has some moving pieces, but the recruiting stars would tell us that there's plenty of talent to fill in. It just has to become acclimated, and that's the one group on the field, Shannon, as you know as well as I do, has to be as cohesive and more cohesive than any other on both sides of the ball.
Yeah, and I mean, you look at Ohio State for the Virginia Tech game 3 years ago in 2014, the offensive line was just decimated by Virginia Tech's defense. Ed Warner at the time was the offensive line coach. He patched them together, got them playing great. They went on and won a national championship. You look at school like Michigan, who has a lot of great offensive players, and they have great players on their defense. And one of their Achilles heels the last couple of years has been offensive play, offensive line play. Penn State has had that issue. Well, now Ohio State, they've had some continuity with their offensive line. Now, like you said, you lose Billy Price, you lose Jamarco Jones, Isaiah Prince, who he was a right tackle, is moving over to left tackle. Anybody who remembers 2 years ago in the Penn State game, he was getting annihilated. But last year, he made 13 all Big Ten offensive linemen. You've got his last name's Knox, like Demetrius Knox. He came in, played right guard after I think it was Brandon Bowden got hurt, and he filled in great. You have a lot of guys there. Michael Jordan, he's been consistent. This is going to be his 3rd year. He started since a freshman. His true freshman year. You're going to have to replace, back-to-back Remington Award winners at center. So, I mean, he's got, the center position's got big shoes to fill. And that's one of the positions that Urban Meyer said he's been worried about going into spring and going into fall. And it's just, I think they have the players, they have the talent. It's just like you said, getting a mesh together. You're not going to find everything out this spring. I believe Michael Jordan's out hurt right now, or just like a nagging injury. Some other players are out hurt, so you don't have that cohesiveness of guys being able to work together until fall. But they have big guys, strong guys, and they have a great coach with Greg Struda, which is really beneficial for them.
We got Shannon Summers on the line from the ozone.net. Got to join him there and the rest of the staff for the very best in Ohio State football coverage. We bring on Shannon on a regular basis, Tony Gerdeman as well, to talk Ohio State football with the Buckeyes hitting the field at the Shoe on April 14th for the big spring game. The secondary play has been amongst the best in the country. The defensive line play has been amongst the best in the country. The linebacking play has been good, but not to the elite level of those other two units. Baron Browning's a guy that Buckeye fans are waiting to see break through. How would you assess the linebackers? And it seems to be a very important unit coming up in 2018.
Well, Baron Browning, he's right now penciled in for the middle linebacker. Tuff Borland suffered a Achilles injury. I believe last week Urban Meyer said that he's going to be out until September. I mean, does that mean that he's out from contact until September, or practice or whatnot? But Barron's going to be playing in the middle linebacker position right now. Justin Hilliard was splitting reps with him, but they put him on the outside. They have Pete Warner. There's a cast of others that are playing outside. They're getting guys learning each of the positions, mostly on the outside, because a lot of it's interchangeable. And the one benefit that Ohio State has is being able to have so much depth that they're not losing a lot when somebody is either injured or needs a play or a series off, that they're just changing and just being able to circulate parts, basically, because they have a plethora of talent on this team. Last year, the linebacker core seemed to take a dip, and then they brought Tuff Borland in, moved Chris Worley on the outside, and so they seem to get a little bit better. But hopefully that this unit just is going to step up and be better than what we've seen last year.
Hey, Shannon, is there anyone you'd like to see in particular this Saturday that gets you fired up to watch? Probably a player that's highly touted but hasn't necessarily been thrown into the fire yet and won't be in the spring game, but still would like to see maybe rise up and become a breakout player this year, or a group of players.
Well, I'd like to see with the wide receivers. I know a lot of the wide receivers have been being held back during the spring because of previous injuries or just allowing other players, so that these guys stay healthy. Some of the talent that's coming in, the secondary, some of the guys that just as far as keeping a rotation going. I mean, as far as specific players, I don't have anybody, just because it's just there's so many players to try to keep track of. But just the way that the spring games are, I remember a couple of years ago, I think it was Nick Collins, or can't remember his last name off the top of my head, but he was like, the best player in the field, went on the prom, that night, because he was still in high school or whatever, but he was enrolled at Ohio State early, went to his prom, was, the spring game MVP. And this past year he's had to retire from football because of injuries. So it's a lot of schools have this issue, and you try not to look too much into it when it comes to spring, but there's just certain things that you're trying to see as far as, what are they going to do offensively, as far as they're going to be a little bit aggressive. Because I think it was last year or 2 years ago, they were definitely the whole spring just trying to throw the ball deep, but it never transcribed in games and stuff.
Yeah, spring game MVP is not something that you want at the top of the resume. It's fine to get, but if it stays at the top of the resume, then there's a problem on down the line. Shannon Summers joins us from the ozone.net. Specifically, he's the director of the Ozone Radio Network, so you got to jump on there and find all the great audio there with Shannon, Tony Gerdeman, Joe Dexter, and the like, cranking out Ohio State football content for us and jumping on my show from time to time as well to keep me straight and the rest of us straight on the Buckeyes, with the spring game coming up on April the 14th. And we got Tony coming on actually on Thursday night. So we're going to keep the Buckeye talk going here at Mark Rogers TV. So Shannon, we appreciate you stopping by.
I appreciate you guys having me on. So thank you.